Hello everyone, this is part 8 of What If Naruto Had to Prove Himself, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. I finally have the answer to your riddle, by the way. Oh yeah. The two of them lounged back, empty ramen bowls beside them. They stared up at the clouds, fond memories of the night before playing through their minds. A cool wind breezed by, stirring a clutter of leaves into the air. As they cut in front of the sun, each young man saw a different pair of faces laughing and twirling among them. I got it during Neji's trial. Pretty obvious, actually. A smirk. I thought you might. The blonde nodded. If you learn all you can about me, I can defeat any of the most powerful ninja in the world. If you leave me behind, your choice will doom you. No jutsu or person is invincible. There's always some strategy that will work, the trick is finding it. He turned to the lazy guy next to him and smiled. The answer, then, is tactics. Know enough about them to come up with the right strategy even on the fly, and you can't lose. Charge headlong into battle without any forethought. And you're asking to get it thrown in your face, Shikamaru finished appreciatively. Naruto chuckled. Something I know from too much experience. No joke. Alright, your turn. The blonde frowned. Huh. Shikamaru gave him a frank look. Did you forget the rules of my test? You've answered my question, now you've got to stump me with one. Oh, I knew that. Naruto's brow knitted in concentration. Eventually, he grimaced and gave up. I'm a star without a twinkle, I shoot but don't shine, and a shuriken. First-year students at the academy learn that one, Naruto. Naruto scratched at his hair abashedly. Hey, right, oh. His eyes lit up and he waved his hands excitedly. Hey wait, I just thought of a better one. Shikamaru shrugged dismissively. Nope. You get one question and that was it. The other boy looked crestfallen. Fart. Come on, you said yourself that was so weak. He whined. I just couldn't think of anything else right away. Rough deal. No one said you had to rush. Spend more thought on it next time, or better yet think of one ahead of time. The lazy boy sighed and leaned back. Now, my turn again, huh? That means I gotta come up with another question. I thought you just said to think ahead, said a grumpy Naruto. Shikamaru continued as though he hadn't heard. It's too much of a drag to make up another riddle, so, he shrugged again. Let's do an easy one. Name one thing that will never let a ninja down. Naruto snorted. That is easy. The raisin, he cut off mid-word and paused. Shikamaru was staring at him, brow arched expectantly. The blonde's eyes narrowed and he nodded slowly. Good tactics, he said instead. A smirk sprouted. Much better guess. The lazy boy leaned back again and closed his eyes. Still wrong, though. Even the best tactical plans can fall flat. Sometimes the other guys have surprises. And sometimes there are mistakes on our side. Naruto nodded again, looking thoughtful. Makes sense. He glanced up at the sun. The leaves had blown off somewhere. He stood and placed money on the counter. I think I'll go see what Hinata's up to. See ya. Shikamaru just shrugged. Just then, however, Tenten came hurrying up to the stand. I was hoping you'd still be here, she gasped, hands on her knees. What's up, Tenten? Asked Naruto. She took a deep breath and stood up straight. I need your help. There's been a robbery. Naruto jerked. What? Where? At the warehouse where we had the party last night. The thief took something very important not too long ago. Neji's going to investigate on his own, but we need all the help I can get. The blonde nodded quickly. He turned to Shikamaru, but the lazy bum spoke up before he could say anything. Heard it. Sounds like a drag. Good luck. Naruto grimaced in annoyance. He looked back at Tenten. Let's go. What do we know? Naruto asked as they leapt along the rooftops. It was one thief, probably male, unknown whether he's shinobi or not. We don't know how he got in undetected, but witnesses saw him leaving the scene. As for what he took, Tenten paused for a moment as they used a tree branch to flip across a wide gap. Do you remember that genjutsu mirror ball? The memory of that first fateful dance through the stars sprouted a silly grin on his face. Oh yeah, I do. Then he came back the present and frowned. Wait, why would someone steal that? They were approaching the warehouse district, and the buildings grew more regular in height. Tenten shook her head. My cousin is an inventor. He tinkers with some everyday stuff, but he also does a few projects for the military every now and then. Her mouth twisted downward unhappily. The mirror ball was civilian, but he told me about a couple ways it might be adapted to shinobi use to great effect. If someone from another village had the same ideas. Naruto nodded grimly. We have to get it back. As the two ninja dashed into the warehouse, Naruto sniffed twice and winced. That must have been one heck of a stink bomb, he muttered. He turned to Tenten. Okay, who are our witnesses? Tenten glanced around. The message explaining what happened came from Ino, so I assume she's one of them, but I don't see her anywhere. Naruto gestured at a pile of cleaning supplies. Looks like they'll be back soon. While we wait, we should take a look around. As he spoke, he formed a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 8 Narutos and Tenten spread out to examine the area. The place was still in ruins from last night's adventure. Broken glass, splintered wood, and hunks of shattered concrete littered the ground. Some of the pseudo-town's colorful stands and storefronts were still up, but most had been taken down and packed away. One spot had been cleared of rubble, the pavement partially repaired, but right in the middle of the space several paint cans streaked with blue pigment sat next to an obnoxious splash of the color plastered across the floor. Aside from that, everything looked about like Naruto last remembered it. While his clones continued the search, Naruto let his mind drift to the memories of the night before. That stand by the door was the first he and Hinata had seen on arriving. He remembered the cute look of surprise and curiosity on her face. Those bulbs over there were part of the light show they'd marveled at. The multicolored glows had found perfect reflection in her pale eyes. That sign had startled her. He'd seen it already but nearly punched it anyway. He knelt and picked up a piece of facade with a ridiculous-looking monkey painted on it. He'd made a silly face at it and Hinata had giggled then shrieked with laughter when he turned the face on her and chased her a few steps. Naruto smiled and glanced around further. Every image he could think of centered on Hinata. That spot was where she'd put her hand on his arm when she thought he wouldn't notice. Over there were the remains of the snack counter where he'd learned she loved raspberry tarts. She'd sighed there. She'd sneezed over there. She'd blushed there, and there. He turned. And over there was where he'd held her as they watched Neji and Tenten. He looked at Tenten to catch her admiring the ring on her finger, and he knew from the far-off look in her eye that her mind was on the same memory. Naruto smirked, wondering how often she had revisited the moment. Hey, Tenten, he called. She gave a start and glanced at him. I just realized I never congratulated you. He nodded toward her hand. Tenten smiled. Thank you. She gingerly touched the ring again. It's still hard to believe it's all real, you know. Naruto realized there was something else he wanted to ask, something nagging in the back of his mind, but before he could put it into words they heard voices approaching. Don't have to shout, Ino. I don't care how bad a hangover you've got, Lee. It's your own fault anyway, so I'll yell all I want. Naruto dissipated his clones and jogged back over to Tenten just as a grumpy Ino and a pathetic-looking Rock Lee rounded the corner. The young man looked awful, with droopy limbs, bags under his half-lidded eyes, mussed hair that was not at all shiny, and blue paint splayed across his rumpled jacket. The blonde girl looked about to give him another tongue-lashing when she caught sight of the two of them. There you are, she said, pulling Lee stumbling toward them. There you are, Tenten corrected, hurrying to meet her. I stopped for help along the way, but I came as soon as I got your message. Tell us what you saw. Ino glanced at Naruto, nodded, and began. Well, the first thing I did this morning was report to the Hokage. With her approval, I immediately retrieved this idiot, she rapped Lee on the head. He groaned, swatted her hand away and rubbed his temples, for his punishment. We gathered all the supplies we needed. What she means is that she made me carry dozens of heavy boxes and cans in here. Lee whined, screaming in my ear the whole way. And I got him to work fixing up the damage around here as his punishment. She put me to manual labor knowing the shape I am in and physically abused me with no consideration to my aching body. Yeah, I shoved your nose in it a little. I made sure you understood the mess you made of my party. I tell you I do not remember any of. Oh, you just save it. We've all heard that amnesia excuse a million times. Guys, Naruto yelled impatiently. Focus. We're trying to catch a thief here, remember. Lee Winston mumbled something about yelling people and headaches. Ino looked flustered and embarrassed. Right, sorry. Anyway, we were cleaning that area over there when someone in dark ninja gear came running in with a big box. He plowed into Lee and sent paint cans flying everywhere. When he dropped his box, I saw the mirror ball in it and knew he had stolen it, but he picked it back up and got away. You didn't try to stop him? Tenten asked in disbelief. Ino looked annoyed. Of course I did, but Master Clumsy here completely knocked me over when he tried to get up. I said I was sorry, Lee muttered sullenly. And by the time I got my bearings again, he was gone. Out that way, I think. Naruto knelt down by the paint splash. Tenten asked, when was this? A little over half an hour ago. We'd have stayed put if we'd known you were going to be here so fast. The authorities aren't even here yet. Naruto spoke up. So, if this paint got all over the floor and Lee, I assume some of it splashed on the thief too, right? Ino frowned. Yeah, now that you mention it. A lot, actually. Grinning, Tenten said, great. Then all we have to do is look for someone covered in blue paint between here and the nearest gate, right? No. Everyone turned to Naruto. Looking thoughtful, he glanced at Tenten. The trade convoys come in today, don't they? The girls exchanged puzzled looks. Yeah, but why does that matter? Everyone in the village is going to be more alert today. All the shinobi are going to be on the lookout for anything suspicious, especially at the gates. He stood. A man splashed with paint carrying a single box out would rate pretty high. If he's a ninja, he could use a genjutsu to cover up, but he'd be taking his chances. Odds are good he'd run into someone who could detect him. He shook his head. No, the smartest thing to do would be to clean himself off and hide the ball somewhere until things calm down. Ino was looking at him like he'd just stepped to his boxes and dashed through town chattering like a monkey, which honestly would have surprised her less. Ignoring her, Naruto asked a stunned Tenten, where's the closest place to wash up? She jolted back to reality. There's a bathhouse a few blocks away. Great, we'll check there first. He headed out. Time to catch a thief and get that ball back. Believe it. Tenten shook her head and smiled. All she said was, go easy on Lee, all right. Before hurrying to catch up. Ino, finally recovered from her shock, called after her, oh don't worry. I'm just about to go hunt down the brat squad, and then my attention will be divided. On the way to the bathhouse, they finally found blue paint DSS leading in its direction. Encouraged by the positive sign, they picked up the pace. As they went, Tenten shot a glance sideways at the boy. You know, you really surprised me. That was some impressive Izzy's back there. Naruto chuckled. Kinda out of character for me, isn't it? The pervy sage planted the basics, and you can blame my tutors for the rest. Then his expression turned serious. Some of the lessons were special training, but some were just the advanced academy courses I never got to take. They fell silent. Tenten was spared of the need to respond because they had arrived. Naruto took one glance at the picture of the inviting, vivid blue pull over the door before heading in, Tenten right behind. As they approached the front desk, the man behind it said with a twinkle in his eye, now then, do I have a fine gentleman and a pretty lady seeking separate baths or a happy young couple seeking one together? They froze. Blood drained from his face. Naruto swung his hands wildly. No, we're not. We're not even here for baths at all. Tenten shouted angrily, blushing furiously. The man seed his head, frowning curiously. Oh, well then, how can I help you folks? Tenten took a deep breath and said, we're looking for a thief. Someone in dark ninja gear splashed with blue paint, added Naruto, who had likewise regained his composure. Did he come in here? The man's eyebrows shot up. Our other strange visit this morning. Yes, he spent his whole time in the bath scrubbing away at the paint. He did manage to clean himself, but one of the other guests said he seemed highly vexed that he could not get it out of his clothing. The gleam in his eye hardened. So he was a thief, was he? The two ninja exchanged a glance and a nod. Tenten asked, how long ago did he leave? The clerk sat back and thought for a moment. Let's see, He arrived roughly half an hour ago, spent about 10 minutes in the bath, then scooped up his blue painted box and left, all in a rush. Naruto perked up. Did you see where he went? Do you have any idea where he was going? I can't see far beyond the front windows from my desk here, but I believe I remember seeing him turn right after he left. Can you tell us what he looked like? Interjected Tenten. The man grimaced. I'm afraid not. He was careful not to look anyone in the eye. At the time I just thought it was because he was in a hurry. Even if he had, I've never been very good with faces. Sorry I can't be of more assistance. The blonde boy smiled. No problem, that's fine. Thanks for your help. A few moments later the two of them were running down the path the clerk had indicated. We're heading toward the shopping district, aren't we? Asked Naruto. Yeah, Tenten confirmed. We're not far off from the center of the clothing business. The blonde boy smirked. I figured as much. He couldn't save his clothes, so he's just getting new ones. As the first clothing store came into view, he formed a hand sign and suddenly Tenten ran with a dozen Narutos instead of just one. Spread out, he ordered. Be on the lookout for blue paint, but it's fair to assume he's already changed by now. We don't know whether he stayed with ninja gear or switched to civilian dress, so we'll just have to check every store until we pick up the trail again. Right, Tenten agreed. Good plan. The clones leapt onto the rooftops and turned down side streets, fanning out across the area while Naruto and Tenten charged down the lane, each taking one side to investigate by silent agreement. Later, the real Naruto was cutting across a rooftop when a blue dumpster caught his eye. More specifically, it was the blue painted sleeve sticking out of the junk that drew his attention. A smirk sprouted on his face, and he signaled a nearby shadow clone to retrieve Tenten before dropping down to street level again. Okay, thanks anyway, sighed Naruto as he turned to the indicated display. Yeah, thanks for nothing, he muttered. Tenten came jogging in with the duplicate he'd sent. What's up? What did you find? Naruto glanced at her and grimaced. He came in here and bought an outfit about 40 minutes ago. Problem is, the lady behind the counter didn't get a good look at him and she doesn't remember what he took, only that it was something from this rack here. She did notice he still had the box, but that's about it. He shook his head. I gotta think for a minute. Could you check around a bit? Maybe somebody saw something. As she complied, Naruto struggled to remember the steps he'd been taught to go through. Okay, the first thing he'd do is get rid of any identifying marks, and he's done that. Ninja. Not likely, or a pretty clumsy one if he is. Accomplices. Probably not, he's been hauling the box everywhere himself. Can I track his face? He scowled. Apparently not. Do I know what he's wearing? He growled to himself. Of course not. Can he get away? He bit his lip. No, the gates are still too hot, and the sentries on the wall are alert. He can't hide the mirror ball on his person, but he can't carry it around either, he has to know he's being chased. He's got to stash it someplace. Where? The closest warehouse. Too obvious. An alley. Not secure. A store. A bush. As he thought, Naruto's eyes were scanning the display in front of him. He had a faint niggling notion that something was missing, and when he finally focused on it, realization hit him. There's a shirt of every color here except blue. Suddenly he felt an image arrive in his mind, a vision a shadow clone had seen and dissipated itself to send him, a young man who looked like Kiba hurrying away down the street. Naruto frowned. Why was he seeing this? The image started to pan away but did a double take. After staring a moment longer, Naruto's eyebrows shot up. Kiba was walking down the street, entirely uninjured. After being trapped in a room with a drunken and enraged Lee. Naruto donned a predatory grin when he noticed the cerulean shirt trailing out beneath the imposter's jacket. He snapped out of his reverie just as Tenten approached and started to shake her head. Never mind, he said quickly. Let's move. As they ran down the street, Kiba had been taking. Naruto explained what he'd seen. Tenten frowned. I don't get it, why would Kiba be injured? The blonde boy stumbled a bit. He gave a weak laugh and tried to hide his sudden nervousness. Well, we all got a little beat up with Lee, right? Bumps and bruises on everyone, but not on Kiba. I mean, come on, at the dubious look he was getting, he added quickly, besides, Akamaru was nowhere to be seen. Tenten's eyebrows shot up. Oh, I see. Kiba never goes anywhere without Akamaru. You must be right, he's a fake. Breathing a sigh of relief, Naruto realized they were just about to pass the help center. As it came into view, he saw Tanbei out front, speaking to Neji. Tenten dashed up to her fiancé, who greeted her with a kiss. Did you find anything? The Hyuga looked grim. I managed to get a description of the thief's appearance. I took that description to the groups in most contact with the populace, but, he glanced at Tanbei, who regretfully shook her head. No one seems to have seen him. That's not going to help you, said Naruto. Neji looked at him curiously, but he turned to the volunteer. Tanbei, has Kiba been by here? Yes, actually, said Tanbei, sounding surprised. He dropped off a big box and requested a delivery. Neji's chin came up. Ah, I see. In disguise, is he? Tenten gave him a brief nod. Do you still have that box? Pressed Naruto. No, I'm afraid not. Choji took it out with several other requests earlier. Where'd he deliver it? Tanbei grimaced and shook her head again. Sorry, I never saw the request slip, and Choji won't be back for a while yet. She thought for a moment, then added, I think I remember hearing him mention, oh, what was it now? Either the Leaf Public Gymnasium or the Head Training Hall, I think. I'm not sure of that, though. The three ninja looked at each other. Neither of those is too far away, Tenten pointed out. And either would be a good place to hide the mirror ball, said Naruto. Neji nodded. Agreed. I'll check the training hall. And we'll take the gym, finished Tenten. Thanks for your help, Tanbei, said Naruto. We'll let you get back to work now. She gave him a small smile and nod, then turned to head into the center. The ninja moved to leave, but Naruto noticed that the sign in the window had been redone in blue and hesitated. He overheard someone inside saying, Hey, Tanbei. Look at this, 3 dozen cans of blue paint going to the academy. He paused and turned to listen. I believe it, came the reply. I heard they're repainting one of their storerooms, and restocking the rest of it. The gears in Naruto's head whirred for a couple of seconds. Hey, Tenten, he called, can you check the gym by yourself? Call it a hunch. As he approached, Naruto heard some sort of commotion from inside. Suddenly a window opened and a young boy came leaping out of the classroom. Since he was preoccupied giving a raspberry over his shoulder as he ran, he didn't see Naruto, who took the opportunity to snag him by the shoulder. Hey now, what's the hurry? The tall blonde laughed. The boy struggled until he saw who it was who'd caught him. Then his eyes shot open wide, his jaw dropped, and he spoke in an awed whisper. You're. Naruto grinned. I know school is a pain, but if you're going to be a ninja you've got to stick it out. A familiar face appeared at the window. Get back here, Naruto. And I know Iruka-sensei can get kinda tense, continued Naruto with a wink, but he's actually a pretty cool guy if you give him the chance. Believe it. The kid nodded wordlessly and Naruto nudged him back the way he came. Still throwing glances back at the older shinobi, the boy shuffled over to the window and mumbled an apology to his teacher. Iruka donned a tired smile. It's all right, don't worry about it. Just get back to your seat. On the double. Both men saw the grin on the kid's face as he jumped to comply. Now, what brings you here, Naruto? He grinned. Just visiting your favorite instructor. The younger man laughed. Yeah, something like that. He sobered. Actually, I'm on the trail of a thief. Iruka's eyebrows rose. I think he might have stashed his loot here. Where's the storeroom that's going to be painted? Oh, second floor, west wing, room 24. Thanks, Iruka-sensei. When he saw the faces begin to crowd around in the window, Naruto grinned and added, You're the best. Naruto was just reaching for the door to room 24 when someone called his name. He turned. Tenten, you're done with the gym already. The brunette jogged up to him and nodded. Yeah, it turned out to be a bust. Are you having any luck here? I'm just about to. She brushed some hair back with one hand and his voice trailed off. He frowned, but before he could comment the door opened. Naruto turned his frown on the figure standing there. Shikamaru, what are you doing here? The lazy ninja sighed. I work here, idiot. Part-time, Naruto supplied. And you're off duty for the trial by leaves. The other boy shrugged. What can I say? I felt like coming in anyway. I had an errand to the storeroom. I'm done with it. If you don't mind, I'd like to lock up and get going now. Naruto scoffed. Well, we're on a mission. Tenten piped up. We're trying to catch a thief. The blonde frowned at her. He knows that. You told him this morning. Oh, right, she said, flustered. Guess I forgot. Yeah, well, he's not here, said Shikamaru, closing the door. Naruto grabbed his shoulder. Hold it. He may not be, but I think he may have hidden the mirror ball in there. Let me look around once first. Shikamaru heaved another sigh and practically threw the door back open. Naruto shot him a look as all three stepped inside. The room wasn't very extensive. It didn't take long to determine the box they were looking for was not there. There, the lazy ninja said irritably. Happy now? Come on, cool it off a bit, Shikamaru, cautioned Tenten. Naruto was inclined to echo that sentiment. He gave Shikamaru a close look and saw something he hadn't noticed before. Right there, on his left earring, was that. Hey Shikamaru, he said innocently, what did you think of that riddle I told you this morning? Great. Perfect, the other boy replied. Now hey. Naruto grabbed him by his jacket and slammed him up against the wall. Naruto, cried Tenten in alarm. What are you doing? My riddle this morning was terrible and you know it. The blonde said calmly. His blue eyes hardened and the corner of his mouth quirked upward. At least, you would if you were Shikamaru. A slow, sly smile grew on the imposter's face. How'd you know? Blue, blue, blue. It's been everywhere today, starting with the spill at the warehouse. You scrubbed for a long time at that bathhouse, but you didn't get everything. He nodded toward the incriminating spot. Then he smirked and jerked his head at the other ninja in the room. And she's right, you're way too grumpy to be Shikamaru. Then he turned a wry look on the girl behind him. But then, you're not who you say you are either. Two shadow clones stepped through the door behind her and seized her arms. Wah, Naruto. It's me, Tenten. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Oh yeah, where's Neji's ring? She froze, then glanced down at her hand. It was indeed bare. The real Tenten is newly engaged. She'd never take off her ring, you faker. He glanced between his two captives. Now, which of you wants to tell me where the mirror ball is? The two imposters looked at each other, smiled, and nodded. Shikamaru cleared his tea and said, the mirror ball was never stolen. Thanks for helping me look for it all day, though. In a puff of smoke, the imposter reverted to Tenten. And it's really me this time, she added, displaying the ring on her finger as proof. Wah. Baffled, Naruto shot a glance at the other Tenten, only to see Ino standing between his two very confused clones. What's going on? He demanded. Ino flashed him a smug look then ignored him, saying to Tenten, all right, I helped you with your test, now you have to come to mine tomorrow. Don't worry, I will. With that, Ino yanked her arms free and departed. Naruto turned back to Tenten, and when he saw her turning crimson he realized he still had hold of her by her shirt. Oh. He jerked his hands free and hid them behind his back, stumbling back a few steps. Sorry, he sputtered, blushing a little himself. Eyes hopeful, he asked, don't tell Neji. Her color returning to normal, Tenten laughed and gave him a wink. My lips are sealed. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief, then donned his puzzled look again. So, what did she mean by test? Just what it sounds like. Tenten continued speaking as they exited the storeroom. There never was a real thief, but you showed impressive sleuthing skills tracking down our supposed criminal. I'm pleased to say you passed the test of observation. Naruto was silent for 3 heartbeats. A grin sprouted on his face. Then he took off running up the wall across the ceiling and down the other, pumping his fist and cheering in victory. Tenten laughed at his antics, and even Neji smirked as he approached. He threw an arm around his fiancée's waist. Ino told me he'd found you out. Apparently we didn't need the next bit after all. Nope, she said cheerfully. Naruto paused and watched them. She gave Neji a peck. But thanks for setting it up anyway. Lunch. He chuckled. As you wish. They started to leave, but Naruto called after them. Hey guys, wait up a sec. They turned back and were surprised to see their hyper friend wearing a serious expression. He bit his lip and thought hard for a moment. Yes, what is it, Naruto? Prompted Neji. The blonde boy met his gaze and said, actually, I've got a question I want to ask you. Another Naruto stepped around from behind the first and said, and one for you too, Tenten. The first Naruto glanced between them. Could each of you talk to one of me alone for a minute? Strolling along the yards, Tenten wasn't sure she'd heard him right. What? His face still red, Naruto heaved an exasperated sigh. I said, how did you know Neji was the one? She eyed him closely. He refused to meet her look, rigidly trying to look like he'd asked nothing more significant than the time of day. Was he thinking about what she thought he was? Why do you ask? He shook his head vigorously. And no reason in particular, he said, throwing nervous glances at her. Tenten grinned. He totally is. He saw her expression and scowled. What? Rolling her eyes away innocently, she said, nothing. Anyway, to answer your question, as she thought, her grin condensed to a content smile and her gaze drifted away. Well, it's a lot of things. There's a tremendous sense of familiarity, for one. He knows me better than anyone else. He knows my fears and how to comfort them. He knows my joys and he likes to share them. I can feel that he understands me completely and accepts me totally, flaws and all. She heaved a dreamy sigh. As for me, whenever my mind wanders it always winds up on him. Whenever he's not around I find myself wondering what he's doing, and when he is I wonder what I can do to help him or make him happy. She added softly, what I can do to repay him for all he's done for me. Tenten shook herself out of her daydream and turned to Naruto, who hung wrapped on her every word. I guess it all boils down to this. I know in my heart that he gives me something, a lot of something that I can't get from anywhere else, and that I'm giddy that I can do the same for him. Naruto nodded slowly, silent for a long moment. Finally he said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Tenten. Anytime. He retreated to his thoughts, took 2 steps away and poof, disappeared. Blinking against the shadow clone smoke, Tenten grinned. Oh, just wait until Ino and Sakura hear about this. The 2 shinobi men stood on the academy's roof watching the kids playing below, the clouds drifting by overhead, and the trees stirring all around. Congrats on your engagement, by the way. Thank you. Silence. So, what made you decide to go through with it? What convinced you to, propose? I proposed because I love her, Naruto. Right, I know, but how did you know you were ready, I guess? A pause. I suppose it's simplest to say that you can't know. As shinobi we mature quickly. We become what most consider responsible adults at an early age. Yet, when considering a decision such as this, one we must live with the rest of our lives, it is perfectly understandable to feel hesitation. I am confident I know what is expected of me, what my responsibilities, my strengths and my failings are as a leaf ninja and as a member of the Hyuga branch family. But as a husband, a father, yeah, but then I consider the alternative. I care for Tenten more than my own life. I am certain she feels the same. If I wait for my doubts to clear away on their own accord I will wait forever, and I will deny us both the happiness we would have enjoyed together. The only choice I have is to walk past my fears. They may follow me, I may look back and see them every now and then, but if I watch my step and keep moving forward, I will forget them and they will wander away. The second said that. You did learn some history, then? Hey. Yeah. Despite myself. Thanks for the advice, Neji. See ya later. Poof. Cousin, I believe your day just might be coming. If there was one thing Tenten had learned about Naruto, it was to expect to be surprised. You could put any sort of plan together, make any sort of consideration or agreement. Naruto would find some way to do something unexpected. If you were doing a simple escort for a merchant caravan, he'd probably stumble upon some mouse plot against them. If he went missing during a dangerous assignment, you were equally likely to find him beating his way out of the enemy stronghold as to catch him napping in the nearest ramen shop. If you needed a hand with something, or even if you were just having a bad day, turnaround odds were good, Naruto would be there to help. To Tenten, who wanted to become the quintessential role model for all budding kunoichi, Naruto was an excellent example. You could never count him out, because when the chips were down he always found a way to come through. She'd come to expect it of him, and strangely enough of herself as well. So the next time Naruto befriended a hideous monster or made a hardened assassin cry, she'd shake her head in wonder, but then she'd shrug and roll with it. That was Naruto. The fox had been the biggest surprise of all, of course, but she'd accepted the revelation and moved on fairly quickly. That was Naruto too. And that about sums it up, Tenten finished. We had planned to take all day on it, but he kept jumping ahead of schedule so much we wound up scrambling to keep up. Shikamaru chuckled. Just like any other mission with him. The kunoichi smiled. That logic about the trade convoys was something we didn't think of, and we certainly didn't count on him catching our fake Tenten. The lazy boy nodded. Apparently those lessons of his really paid off. This one's really going to be a bright spot on the report. We thought he'd do well, but he really blew past our expectations. Tenten shrugged. Yeah, but that's Naruto. Something wasn't right, and Hinata was dreading what it might be. This morning, Sakura had shown up at her door and offered to take her shopping, explaining that Naruto was going to be doing a trial all over town and they needed to stay out of the way. Later in the day Ino had tracked him down to inform them he had passed, and she hinted that the Hyuga girl might be seeing him soon. Hinata had eagerly gone home to wait for him. 2 hours later, she had begun to seriously worry, but then she'd seen his blonde head turn in at the gate and her doubts had been banished. As time passed, however, her fears returned and compounded. They went to her favorite restaurant again, but he was silent for much of the meal. He responded when she spoke, he smiled and laughed, but she could tell it was forced. He seemed distant, lost in his thoughts, and she could read on his face that something was troubling him. Hinata felt despair creeping at the edge of her heart, because she knew he was coming to the conclusion she'd reached the day before. It couldn't last. Naruto was finally coming to his senses. He'd end it soon and move on. She didn't know how she would survive when the moment came, but she was determined to enjoy her taste of heaven for as long as she could. Naruto had never been so paralyzed by indecision in his life. On the one hand, her presence had become addicting, her smile and her laughter intoxicating. He felt something that told him he would do anything to please her, and he knew what that something was. Tenten's description had made it all too clear. He loved Hinata. Loved her. And ever since he'd been beaten over the head and made to see, her feelings for him had been obvious. Everything he'd heard, seen, and felt made him sure the step he was considering was the right thing, the only thing that made sense for both of them. On the other hand, what if he was wrong? He was 19. How did he know what he felt was real, not some passing fling like the crush he'd had on Sakura? You can't know. What if he wasn't ready for the responsibility? If he failed, he'd cause them both a lot of grief. It would be too late to ever escape. The prospect of hurting Hinata froze him in place even as the thought of making her happy beckoned him forward. Walk past my fears. Naruto reached into his pocket and fingered the purchase he'd spent 2 hours deciding to buy. He didn't have a role model for this, only a legend to live up to. Dad, is this what you felt with my mother? Show me what to do. X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.